Hello, this is Module 6 presentation for Full Stack Development 1. The first requirement for this module was to ensure that we are able to link the contact us form on HTML to the Mongo database. So first we will open our public controller where the create form already lies. Then I will open my MongoDB over here to show that this is module 5 and the contact us region is here. And when you open the contact us document, all the field forms that are required from the HTML are actually available. The name, email, the phone, company name, project description, department, message, and the file is not mandatory for this section, but it persists and it shows up in MongoDB. From that, I will now create the home and create a contact to ensure that this actually works. First, I would like to start my npm to ensure that it's connected to MongoDB and also to Postman. Next, we will start by creating the new contact. Name, email address g@gmail.com. Put in a random phone number, company name, project name, then populate the department and the message, and you click send. When we check our MongoDB and refresh it, you should be able to see Jen's new contact has come into our database. And when we check, the name was Jane. Here it is, has shown up Jane, Janie, Jenna, blah 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 blah, all of that. It actually works, so that endpoint works. When we go back to validation on line 17, we are sure that the validator actually works, that the email is in the right format and the phone number is all in digits. And so what happens there, if both of them are valid, then the contact is actually saved and the information is saved in the database. Next, I will now close this. The next requirement was about agents table, which was supposed to be showing up on the residential page. I will open the residential HTML right here. I could just go back to this actually. Just a moment. Services, residential, and the table already shows up. The requirements for this table were: number one, for the data to be pulled from MongoDB to show up here, which it does, with all the required fields of the names, the ratings, fees, and region. The other requirement was to make sure that the fee is displayed in currency format. You can see the fee column that is displayed. And the table, you are able to sort the table by name. You can see the first name sorts, the last name does sort, the rating also sorts, the fee sorts, and lastly, filterable by region, where I created a drop-down arrow, and you can select all the agents in the north and the south and the east and west. All of this logic is held in the residential JS, which I will open now and demonstrate. First, let me start with the HTML. This is the HTML that operates the residential page, and I adjusted the filter regions to make sure that all the four regions, there is the four regions and all the regions also show up, as well as ensuring that within the table headers, you are able to click on the first name and be able to add it to sorts. That logic is held in the residential.js. Sorry. If we go back up all the way to the beginning, from line 4 to 6, the logic helps us keep track of the agents, to list the agents, and helps us to sort the names in line 5 and 6. Aside from that, from line 8, this is where the agents table is being displayed and also shows up the drop-down menu from which we are able to filter the agents by the region. When we come now down at line 12, when this is the logic that holds for the different ratings and changes colors for the agents and the different ratings that they have. I will show it on the HTML, just a minute. My HTML is not showing. Here, that the agents change color. Let me load all of them. That the agents change color. The 100 is green, blues in the 90s are blues, and less than 90 is purple. That is where the logic for that is being held. From line 19, this is where we are holding the function that creates the table and fills the table with all the data that is needed, right? And from line 24 is where we are able to sort by clicking on the table header, and also sort ascending and descending like on line 35. And then from line 52, after we've already checked all the requirements that we are able to fill a table and we're able to sort. Now from line 52 is where the agent's data is created in which is pulled from the MongoDB via the schema structure, pulled into the different data cells for the first name, for the last name, and for the rating. That's all held here. The logic for currency is held from line 65, and the API that is the logic from line 82 tells us that this is the API that goes to fetch all the agents and render them to a table and makes sure that the agents are received in the correct format. From line 102, this creates an API call for agents in specific regions, especially when we filter. Then it brings us now the agents in those regions that are requested. And that goes all the way to 121. Then from line 124 is what happens when a user selects a region. When they select all the agents are rendered. When they select north, only the agents in the northern region are rendered. And that all goes until it's sorted ascending and descending, and that is all the logic that is held here all the way until 197, where if there's no collision, it loads all agents. In 192 it loads all agents by region, but if there is no collision and it doesn't need to fall in that, it loads all agents here in 197. So all the agents are loaded. The third requirement was to ensure that the calc endpoint was working and that we are able to calculate the elevators needed for when a client requests elevators. First of all, for this we start at public route. This is where the logic for the calculating of the elevators is needed. The logic for the fact that the path parameter is here dot building type. And when we go to Postman, just a minute, let's see. When we go to Postman and we enter all the data that is needed, like for the industrial building type, the data that is needed is the tier and the number of elevators. When you send that data, the response that it gives is the elevators required and the total costs, and these numbers are correct. When you change and try to get information about residential elevators, where you need the apartments and the floors, and the building type here is residential, and you run it again, it brings the number of elevators required and the total cost. Likewise, for commercial buildings, when you test it, in commercial buildings, the parameters required are maximum occupancy and the number of floors. It does the same. So it brings back the expected numbers for all three building types. The logic for this, I will minimize this, is held in the calculations.js. Here we are in the util. And this script handles all the calculations that is required. First of all, from line 5 is the main function that tells us about the buildings and the elevator tier. Then it goes into unit prices and the installed price percent fees. And from line 27 to 20, it does the main math, where depending on the building type, it calls in the correct formula. And in line 29 to 31, it includes the data for the unit price, the base price, and installation fees to give us the response for the elevators required in line 33. And apart from that, the lines 37 to 51 are helper functions, which are supposed to also come in to help with the math for the different building types required. Then the module exports to the calculations controller. Then the module imports here in the controller, and from this controller, then we are able to see from line 33 the elevator quote calculator, which takes in apartment floors and all the rest. And we run some checks here in line 42 to check whether the tier is valid, and if not, it returns an error. Then, depending on the building type, from line 47, it checks whether the data entered for all the building types, are they in numbers, are they integers, and are they greater than 0? All that happens here all the way to line 105. And then in the end, once all the inputs are correct, it calculates the elevators and tells us how much is needed, how many calculators are needed, and what is the cost of the elevator, and then exports this to the public route for the API call. The last requirement was to run tests, to run unit tests on 3 API calls, API endpoints, sorry. Here is the document from which we are going to be running the tests. And when I run an npm run test in the terminal, you can see when I do npm run test in the terminal, all 3 endpoints show up. Number 11, line 11, hello world, the one with status, and the error endpoints. They all show up here in the terminal to show me that the unit tests were successful. So that was all for this module 6. Thank you.